All right. Well, according to this, we're live. This is just a test run to see how this works. Hello and welcome. It is currently the Tuesday after Christmas, and I am playing around with a new streaming service that hopefully will make this whole process a lot easier. Let's see. That's festive. All right. So not really sure how long I'm going to go right now because this is just a test to see. In theory, we are there on, we're here on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. And I set up something for Twitter, but I'm not sure how that works, so I don't know. All right, I'm going to play around with some of the features on this. Again, I am using the website program restream.io, which I found, I should have tagged the article. I found in an article that it was a excellent streaming assistance service because I was trying to stream on Twitch, which it said I was streaming, but it never actually showed up that I was streaming. So, and I have no way to check. Well, there's probably a way to check, but as far as I can tell, never happened. So just went ahead and did a live stream on YouTube, but there aren't that many options, especially with the plan to eventually be doing a lot of crafting and that sort of thing. And so at this point, I am working on a second camera so that I can have the Chet cam and the craft cam going on. So that is in the works. So let's just try out a couple of these features. I am just on the free setup at this point. They have whatever memberships, services, all the way up to like $250 a month. And needless to say, I am not there yet, as I am just trying to figure out how the technology works on it. So we'll see how it goes. You can see Kat right here. She'll probably come and join us a little later. Or if I just bug her enough, she'll probably come over here. So let's see what kind of features this program has. So let's see. Does that do anything? Oh, changes my little icon. That's easy enough. All right, second we have primary colors. Let's just do that. Okay, you can only add a logo if you are a paid member, which I am not. So we're just gonna skip on that. And then it has some little frames you can do. So that's nice. I probably should go through and see if I'm actually streaming anywhere. Although looks like somebody's watching, so apparently I am live somewhere. So yeah, new old dog, new trick. I was actually talking to my mom the other day about possible careers to go into since I can no longer do any of my jobs because of long haulers. And one of the things that she had suggested was doing web design again, which is what I went to school for. I went to Cornish back in the early to mid 90s, or late from 99. I graduated in 99. So from there, I actually went to Cornish. Primarily because the first time I walked in the doors to check it out, it felt like walking onto the set of Fame. So I never wanted to leave once I went in. But I went for the graphic design department there, which was a wonderful, wonderful program. I was the first class when I started in 2000 or in 1995. I was the first class that they were actually offering web design. And so when I'm in the process of trying to figure out exactly what to do with my life, now that I am incapable of doing basically any of the jobs I did before I got sick, one of the suggestions was web design because that's what I have my degree in. That's what I'm professional at, right? Yeah, no. I learned in the first year that they had a web design program, and I went through on Dreamweaver and never really went beyond that in my web design abilities. So I learned how to use frames and that sort of thing, and how to integrate Java into, yeah, no, that's just not even an option. I basically don't even list that I did graphic design or did web design as a career on any of my resumes at this point, because the simple fact is my knowledge of the programs are completely antiquated. So it's nice that nowadays for us middle-aged people and in the throes of figuring out new career paths, that it has all of these little that apparently have a bunch more stuff that I need to look into. But I couldn't figure out how to look at all this stuff when I wasn't live. So you just get to experience. I also need to get my second screen working because right now my camera is blocking half of my tools. So, so you can do little timer things, which are handy since I usually spend the first 30 seconds to a minute or two to just staring at stuff. I'm like, are we live? I don't know. Oh, chat overlay. Okay. So the theory is that this program, again, it's restream.io, has permission to like look at all my social stuff and will in theory post it here. So we'll see how that works. Um the okay. All right, so that is how the program works. And I guess I will check later to see if it's actually working or not, because I have no idea. I have no idea. I am learning as we go. So that's fun. That'll be fun to try to figure this out in a public format. Okay, so there are different, let's see, let's hide that. Okay, so that is the basics of, all right, I'm not going to be upgrading or anything, so none of that is stuff that I can do. So yeah, that is basically what we got. We have the live chat going. As to whether or not that's working, no idea, because this is just a test. Changed around our name tag to a fancy circle that's purple. So yeah, I'm feeling super customized and super, super, super high tech at this point. Yeah. So just for shits and giggles, we are going to go ahead and do some makeup so that we can just test if this will run for a while. Looks like we've been going for like 10 minutes. Cool, 10 minutes to figure out the whole program. So thumbs up on the restream so far. It took me about 10 minutes to set up the entire situation and then put stuff together. And there are a lot more options and a lot more possibilities of customization and everything when you have a paid service. But I'm going to hold off on that because, yeah, we're just going to play around with the free for a while. Okay. So really quick, I'm going to see if we're actually streaming on anything else. So let's see if I can share my screen. Let's see. All right. See if that's working. Oh, it's working. It's always fun when technology works the first time. Okay, so I have a new tab open. Let's go to YouTube first. Here we go. Ha! So in theory, I'm live there. I'm not going to click on it because I'm sure I will get into some sort of an insane technology loop that will like cause some weird morphing effect going on. Okay, so we are live on the YouTubes. So if nothing else, we got that. Technology, ain't it grand? So let's do a quick tour of what we're looking at here. This is Chantrell the cat over here, and if I bug her enough, she'll actually come and lay behind me. Hello, sweetheart. So she is often inside now that she cannot go outside, because outside right now we have a nice little layer of snow going on, which is... Hi, Dina! Hi! There we go. Apparently, so it's working somewhere. I am apparently live on Facebook. Hi, Dina. No volume, but you can see me. So hi, nice to see your icon of Ms. Roby. Cool. So at very least, in this point, we're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. So technology is grand. All right. So right here, you can see the computer that I am looking at with my camera right there. Hi, Sarah. How you been? Oh my God, it's been years. Well, I mean, it's kind of been years for everything because I don't leave the house anymore, but hi, Ryan. Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness. Apparently Facebook's the way to go. Fans, you are going to have... Well, at this point, Dina, I am learning how to use a new program. I don't, what are kids calling it today? Is it an app? Is it a program? It's called Restream.io, and I'm able to set up the stream on this website, and then it automatically pops it over to, at this point, YouTube and Facebook successfully. I guess I could check on the Twitch, because that's the other one I think I'm live streaming on. But yeah, so this in the future, the idea in the future is that I will be sharing crafting and cooking and all sorts of stuff. Right now, I'm working on editing right here in this other computer. It is rendering for 11 hours, so I might just be streaming for 11 hours to waste time until I could get back to editing. The two editing projects that I'm working on right now are all of my holiday craft footage I'm putting together into little tutorials that I'll be uploading in the next few days. And I made Eggs Benedict on Christmas Day, and I will be putting that together and uploading that. So those will be coming up on my YouTube channel, which you can go check out, is Kikipocalypse. I believe my like username is Dire Films, DIAR, ducks in a row films, or look up Kikipocalypse. I'm on that. And in theory, we're streaming there too, so we'll see how it works. But for now, what we are going to test out, let's see, what's next for the test out? That's about it on the testing. We are live, we are chattable, we are available. Everything seems to be, let's see. Oh. Ooh, that's fun. I can highlight comments. That's fun. Okay. Yeah, learning technology is such a blast. Such a total blast. I have been, you can see here, I have this screen here, and that is soon to be hooked up to my TV, which is right there. And then I have the second screen, which you can't see right now because it's black, but that's basically right here. And then this is my, this is made up for, or this is the makeup for doing some, mirror for doing some makeup, which I'm going to do just to keep going because I don't have my second camera yet. So generally what that will be in the future, I need to remember to look here, not at what I'm rating. In the future, I will have one cam that can point at whatever I'm working on, and then one, little chat cam. But at this point, I do not have that. So I wanted to do this test with something that I could work on for a while, and but only need one camera. So easiest for that is just doing makeup, which is easy, fun, and I can still keep track of anything that might be going on in the world around me. So I have makeup that I had planned to do holiday movies with, but because of technological slowness, I did not get quite as many done as I had hoped for. So I have a bunch of holiday themed makeup that I could do. Have Santa Claus, a penguin, Rudolph. What else? Oh, and then a snowman with a button nose and two eyes made out of coal. And then for watching Scrooge, I was going to be doing the Ghost of Future. Ghost of Christmas Future. That's it. So not 100% sure which one I should do. Let's see. Let's do the penguin. Let's do the penguin one. That looks fun. So the penguin one is a little bit of an illusion where the nose is the top of the penguin mouth, and then it sort of goes into there, and then big round black eyes with the little eyes in there. So yeah, I think that one will be fun to do, especially because I've run out of white paint for the most part. Let me preface by saying I'm not doing like makeup because I don't go anywhere. I don't wear makeup for the most part, even when I did. But at this point, because of my health issues with long haulers, I can't use mascara. I pretty much get an eye infection if mascara gets anywhere near my face or anything like that. So I have just completely, these are all blue squid kids face paint makeup because they go on easy, they come off easy, they don't cause weird irritation, and they look good. They look pretty. I like the colors. They're more fun. I've done face painting at festivals in the past, and those are always really simple because it's usually just like a little thing on the cheek or a little thing on the forehead. But for my purposes, I'm doing full heavy face makeup. So let's go ahead and get started with everything. Hopefully I grabbed what I actually need because half the time I'll end up starting and then have to run away 5 seconds later to find all the stuff. So of course, start with water. Biggest thing with face paints like these that a lot of people don't think about is the fact that just like with really intense like eye makeup. They don't do it just like color here, color here. They did it in the 80s and 90s where it was just like these streaks and stuff. But nowadays it's you put on a layer, then you put on a layer, and then you put on the layer, and then you put on a layer, and you build up the color so that you get really nice blending and really nice technical effects, everything moving together. So within that, we start slow, we start with layers, we put on more layers, and then we finish with the detailing. It's also helpful if you've done window painting because it's a lot like window painting, but it's your face. So we're going to start. Again, we're going to do the penguin, which is going to just be a whole lot of black. So first step is to get the black going on this. All right. So with the face paints like this, put a little bit of water in and sort of work it until it's in a paste. The biggest mistakes that a lot of people do when using this kind of paint is you put on the water, you mush it around a little bit, and you slap it on your face. That really doesn't work as well as you might hope in the long run. You're going to want to get it so that it works its way actually into a bit of a paste before you start putting it on. Because with a lot of these, especially if you want a nice solid color, what you're doing is you're mixing the particulates into the liquid. And as the particulates get into the liquid, you get more pigment. Okay. So if you do it, so you just do a little bit, let's do a little streak to show what I'm talking about. See, that is after you've worked it for a while and you have a nice bit of pigment to it. When you work it to the point at which you need it to be, you start applying. Droop, droop, droop. I like to work it up into the hair because I basically need to take a nice long shower and work this all out in a second. Anyways. All right. Another thing with the face paints is there's a certain degree of blend you can do while it's still wet. Once it's dry, all it's going to do is reliquify what's on your face and pull it all off. So really think of it as putting layers on rather than painting in the traditional sense. I'm going to be putting a solid layer of black where I need a solid layer of white where I need it, then go back and do the shading, the contouring, any of that sort of junk you want to do, and then the layers on top of it. So for the penguin face, I'm going to need just to do all the black around the edge. And the big thing is whenever you add more water, you always want to stir. You don't want to get this beautiful black for part of it and then it be all funky for other parts of it. So whenever you add more water, you want to keep mixing until you get that good full pigmented liquid. Basically, it goes between being slightly watery and it starts to thicken up, and that's when you want to stop. If you get too thick in there, then it's just going to continue to get thicker, and you get to a certain point where you're not going to be able to put it on. So it's just finding that fun balance between what is liquid and what is a paste. And once you kind of know what you're looking at, it gets a lot easier. Which this would be another reason it'd be nice to have the second cam, because then I'd be able to show you what I'm actually talking about. Let's see if I can lift it up. You can kind of see. Anyways, so yeah, you basically just want to keep stirring until it is not quite a liquid anymore, and then just keep applying. Let's see. So you can see for the penguin, it's going to come down the nose and across the face and then under the jawline. So let's start with Okay. Also need to figure out exactly where the mouth is going to start on that. So it's going to follow the crease line right here and go up and over and then back down to where the crease line is. And around that is white. So just going to do the black up into, let's see. There we go. I have a mirror set up, but it's kind of in an awkward position. So, yep, test away, see how this all works. Let's go. So I want to get the basic shape of the penguin. And I want it to basically follow the curve down to the jaw so that when I turn it this way, it'll sort of give that like effect around there so that it'll look kind of like there's an edge to it. So it has been snowing the last few days here, which has been quite fun to be trapped at home during. It's been beautiful out, but it has been cold as all get out. And it has been quite an experience getting trapped at home with all this. The fear, of course, was watching the snow come down and having flashbacks to the insane ice storm that we had. God, it wasn't even last year. It was earlier this year. It was last winter, but it was this year. And we were caked in so much ice that the landscape of the town looks different because so many large trees, tall trees were lost during the whole process that watching the snow come down, it felt slightly less magical than it usually does because I'm a complete absolute freak for weather in general, but for snow in particular, and the fact that we haven't had snow in this area for a really long time in any significant amount. And then last year, we looked like we were going to get some fun weather, and it just turned into an insane ice storm. And during that whole thing, we'd go outside, and it sounded like there were like firecrackers going off because of the sounds of all of the trees popping. My roommate had actually been at work all day, and because of the place that he works, they had power all day. They never lost power because they're connected to a big shopping center that had, support and everything. And so he came home, and I had candles lit all over the house, and the fireplace was going, and the power had been off for 6 hours, 5 hours. It had gone out around noon. And so by the time he actually got home, by the time he actually got home, he just hadn't realized that he knew that the weather had gotten bad. He hadn't realized that the power had been out for most of the town for most of the day. And so he got home and he was just like, oh, this looks nice. Cozy, you enjoy the weather? I'm like, dude, we don't have power. Thank goodness we had the gas stove, because if we didn't have the gas stove, it would have been incredibly problematic. Incredibly problematic. Because you'd walk from the right in front of the fireplace, and it was cozy and everything, and then you would walk towards any window, or you'd walk towards the other side of the house to basically just grab something or whatever. With every step, the temperature would drop, and so you get to the other side of the house, and it got to the point after 2 days, I think, so we were 3 days, 4 days, something without power, to the point even the emergency broadcast radio stations weren't broadcasting. It was pretty surreal. So yeah, I just got to a point where have 90% of every day spent 2 feet from the heater so that we didn't lose our minds. And then going outside and hearing, all the cracking of trees coming down. Okay, let's see. So this snow issue has been much more pleasant. It's just enough to be really pretty. It's been sort of melting off a bit during the day, so travel hasn't been too bad. It's gotten kind of nasty at night, just with how cold it's been. At a certain point, they were saying it's supposed to get down to 16, but I think the lowest we're supposed to get to is like 21, which is a bit, especially considering the fact that the high for this year in my town was 117. Yeah, 117. Um, during the heat dome situation that boiled multiple areas in the US and Canada and elsewhere. Um, we hit 117. So if we hit 21, we'll have like a 97-degree temperature shift for the year, which is just insane. Um, but I think the weirdest part about it was the garden situation, which is still in the process of resolving itself because usually around October, November, um, you start cutting stuff back for the winter because the plants are like, okay, it's getting colder, and the perennial plants will begin to pull all of their nutrients back down into their roots so that they have a better chance of not only surviving the winter, but being successful in the spring when it's time for them to come back out of dormancy. Well, this year, all the way through November, every time I would go out to check on the plants to see what they were doing and how it was going and if it was time to clip them back or not, on my strawberry bush or strawberry tree that usually um, it usually flowers and blooms in the fall. And I went out there at a certain point and its leaves were turning for fall to fall off. It was producing, it had fully developed fruit on it, and it had brown new buds coming out. So that's pretty much just been how it's been all year. Everything's been confused. Things have been doing multiple bloomings. I had 2 runs of artichoke this year. The Brussels sprouts came on and then seemed to die back, but then are growing again now. So, yeah, everything's just in like a weird state of flux. So, at this point, I'm just going to enjoy the winter and see what happens because have what, 2 months? 2 months until I can start tomato seeds. I like to start my tomato seeds in mid-February, primarily for the fact that they are an excellent indicator of when to start other stuff, when to plant other stuff. So I have my tomatoes going super early and they'll stay tiny and then suddenly they'll start to grow. And that's the point at which I know it's time to start all of the super early stuff and some flowers and that sort of thing. So have a while to go until I can start doing garden content again. So at this point, we're going to be focusing on crafts and movies and cooking and that sort of thing. Um, all right. Penguin base going strong. That was a little closer. Oh. All right, so let's go ahead. I think I need to bring this up above the chin. weird thing with illusion makeup. It's like you look at yourself and then go, okay, this needs to change. This needs to change. Before I get too much into the black, I need to do the white because I don't want the whole thing turning out gray. I also wanted to give a good start on the black. Okay. Okay, switching brushes to get the white going. Let's do a big one because that'll save time. So, just basic paintbrush. I generally like to use paintbrushes because makeup brushes are expensive, and this is just for fun. So, okay, let's see. So we are on December 20, is it the 27th? It's the 28th today. So we have just a couple more days left in the 20s, the 2021s, and then we'll be 2022. So that is so bizarre in so many ways. Okay. I don't know if you can see. I didn't mix it enough, so it's not going on very well. I'm getting a lot of separation, and that's what happens when you don't have enough water in there. So, or not enough stirring with the water, that the particulates are not dense enough to create an opaque coverage. So I'm gonna leave the room for the beak. So I'll just get this over here. So yeah, just a couple days left in 2021. And then we'll be in 2022, which is just the most bizarre time loop ever possible, because it feels like 2021 just started and suddenly we're at the end. And so what did we learn this year? What did we learn this year? Well, I've learned that I like spending time alone, more though than I even thought, because I've always been an incredibly social person. But over the last, looking at my pictures, not at notes, over the last couple years of basically surviving completely isolated because of my acute illness, and then the secondary issue of the long haulers. I've spent basically the last almost 2 years, since mid-March of 2020, pretty much just home alone, primarily for the fact that I haven't been able to work. So it's a lot easier to not go out when you don't have any money to go out. That definitely helps a lot in prioritizing. So for the last year, it's just been hanging out at my house, working on recovery. I have a lot of health stuff now that I have to deal with that I didn't have to deal with before. So that has made things very different and weird for me in general. So what have I learned this last year? I've learned that shit can change on a dime and you just got to roll with it. And I think that's a lesson that is worth remembering, but it's also one of those lessons that you will remember, because I know I've learned that lesson before. I mean, I've obviously learned that lesson before, but somehow 2021 has been the year of relearning shit you should have already known, but possibly in a more substantial way, hopefully. But we'll see. We'll see how 22 goes, because I was about to say it couldn't get any worse, but geez. The way that I've been sort of seeing it is 2020 sucked, like just kind of a blanket statement. And then everybody was like, oh, 2021's got to be better. But 2021 ended up being like that shitty sequel that nobody asked for. Hey, Simon, how are you doing? 2021 turned into that sequel that nobody asked for. They didn't give a budget to. They couldn't get any of the original actors for, and they couldn't get decent writers for, but they still had the CGI sharks left over from the last one, or they still have the CGI tornado, or they still had whatever CGI that was already like ready to go. So they just used that again and used it a lot more. That was 2021. So 2022, any thoughts on what 2022 is going to bring? Because I don't know. Hopefully health-wise it will be better, because 2020 sucked health-wise, but I would say 2022 is definitely worse overall, just because of like getting sick is one thing, but then getting sick and thinking you're getting better, and then getting sick and thinking you're getting better, and then getting sicker and thinking you're getting better over and over and over again, while your heart doesn't work right and your brain doesn't work right and all this different stuff. It's pretty daunting, and it's pretty disconcerting, and it's pretty disappointing. I mean, there's been so many mornings that have just seemed like, oh crap, this again? Like, really? I have to deal with this again? And, it's finally getting to the point where it's like, okay, so this just is what it is. I will wake up every day feeling horrible, and that's just how it is now. So get up and get moving and have some fun and see what's going to happen. So for 2022, the plan is to continue to work on getting some semblance of health back, because that is pretty much, if I don't get my health back this year, I don't see the point of any of it. So that's going to be the biggest priority. I need to figure out how to make income, which, it is what it is. And I plan to, I guess the best part about the whole illness and the whole process and this whole time period is the fact that I, for neurological recuperation within long COVID, one of the protocols that was suggested is traumatic brain injury recovery protocols, or things that somebody who had a stroke or traumatic brain injury or was attempting to battle against Alzheimer's, that sort of thing. There are protocols that you can do that are intended to help with basically your neurons disconnect for whatever reason. And as they build back, it is a process of, do they reconnect to the right spot? Meaning, do the connections come back correctly, or do they come back messed up? That's something that's been associated with the issues with smell and taste. Why some people just will lose smell and taste, why some people will taste everything as being rotten, why some people will smell onions all the time. It's very possible that it is, in fact, a neurological issue that, in order to improve, recover from whatever, the protocols are the same as you would have for if you got a traumatic brain injury, that sort of thing. So basically starts out with simple process. I did a lot of puzzles because puzzles are something that fit the criteria of what they were recommending. It's something that you can do for hours and hours and hours. And trust me, I've done hours and hours and hours of puzzles at this point. It is using the parts of the brain that are physical as you're looking at the picture, analytical as you're looking at the shapes and how they line up, and also fine motor skills, picking up the pieces, comparing the pieces, that sort of thing. So within that process, you start out with something that's super simple. I started out with puzzles because that is right in there with what they were suggesting. Then you're looking at then you're looking at basically, as soon as you're bored, as soon as you're not interested in, is as soon as you like, there's a certain point at which your brain knows that the puzzles have done the job, and there's a certain point at which you feel like you can move on, and the next step is something that takes a little more concentration, a little more divergent types of thinking and that sort of thing. So I got a book of puzzles where I would have to think about things in a different way. It was dealing with language, which I've really struggled with language throughout. If my system gets overtaxed at this point, the first thing that I start to lose is language, which is both frustrating and it's off-putting for other people just in as much as it kind of seems funny from the outside, but it is so frustrating from the inside. So basically, when my system gets overtaxed, be it from physical activity, thinking too much, emotional stress, all that sort of stuff, basically within the autoimmune issue that I'm dealing with at this point, your body can't tell the difference. So you do something that takes a lot of intellectual strength, you might need to take a nap afterwards. You do stuff that is really emotional, you might just feel fatigued and not be able to really stand up afterwards. My first signal when my system is getting overtaxed is language. It starts with searching for words, not being able to find words. It gets more noticeable and more problematic as my system gets more and more taxed. I will have times that I'm trying to say something super simple and I'm looking at something and I cannot find the word. And I will possibly say something that's close to the word, or I'll say something that is adjacent or something else that I'm looking at. And it just becomes this really weird struggle to communicate ideas. It gets beyond that into stuttering. It gets into a loop that I am no longer able to like actually speak. And the worst case that I've ever had to deal with just within the idea of language and communication is I was in a trivia group before all of this, and we would do trivia at a bar every Tuesday, and we started doing it in a friend's backyard over the summer. And for the most part, that was pretty much the only social thing I did for basically the entire summer was when we couldn't meet online to go over to my friend's house, and she has a great setup in her backyard and everything. But I went one time and I had to clean that day, and I knew I was stressed, and I knew that my symptoms would be bad, but I still wanted to go because I missed everybody, and this was my one opportunity. So I just sort of sucked it up and went over, and knew that by the time I got there, I was already like kind of loopy. And about halfway through the evening, we were doing trivia, and my friend was asking questions about plants, which is like my jam. And I love plants and gardening and everything. And I understood that the questions that she was asking were about plants. And I understood the different words in the question that she was asking. And it wasn't that I didn't understand the words she was saying, and it wasn't that I didn't know the answers. The fact was that I couldn't understand what she was asking. Like, I understood the individual words, but I didn't understand the concept she was asking for. Like, one of the questions was about what is the largest living thing on the planet or whatever. And obviously there's this like fungus thing that's the biggest thing on the planet. I couldn't think of the word fungus, and I couldn't understand. Yeah, it was just this like really weird brain loop thing that's hard to even explain. But at a certain point, I just like burst into tears because it's like, I don't understand. It's not that I didn't understand the questions, or I didn't understand what was going on. I like literally heard the different words and couldn't understand what the question was. So that's super fun to happen when you're in public and kind of tired, and suddenly to just not be able to comprehend what the person is saying. And then to try to respond and be like staring off into space, trying to find the word pants. So yeah, that's why I don't go out that much. And so far, so good. I'm enjoying my time at home, working to get some alternate possibilities for jobs and stuff going on, and doing lots of crafts. And I need to not lift this up so hard. Angles are kind of weird. All right, so what else is going on? Let's see. Okay. I have this other mirror set up. The angle on it is really funky and I can't see what's going on. So then I keep blocking it with the other thing. So let's see if I can get this set up a little better. Nope. It's getting worse. Okay, well, I'll figure it out for next time. This is just a test anyways, right? This is just a test and see what happens and where it goes and how it all comes together. So this doesn't even really matter anyways. This doesn't count as a thing. Okay, starting to look penguinish. So I think, so these are all going to be black for the black of the eyes. So I just have to fill in the white. Okay, I think that's got all that there. So, okay, that's the white of the penguin makeup. There we go. So, current weather, not snowing. We will keep our eyes out for that. Okay, so that is the basic white on the penguin makeup. Let's go ahead and do the orange because then that will make it look very penguin-y. Penguiny, is that a word? Yeah, we're gonna go with that being a word. So I guess my regular streams are scheduled for Thursdays on Twitch, though I haven't been able to successfully get a Twitch stream going. I might be on there right now. I don't know. You might be watching from Twitch. I don't know. So the weather report says that it is supposed to start snowing again around 4 o'clock, I believe, is the next time, which is an hour from now. We've been going for an hour. Cool. And not everything has, the ground still has snow on it. The trees, for the most part, are devoid of snow at this point. So I think we've actually hit the highlight and the end of the interesting weather for this part of the year. We'll see. We'll see. Considering how early in the year it came, that's the part that has me a little concerned for the course of the year. Because the simple fact is, we don't usually get this kind of weather this early in the year. It's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. In Oregon, I mean, obviously the mountains get snow, but I'm trying to think of the last time we got snow. We had the ice storm last year. And then I think that's it. I think that's actually literally been it as to snow in the area in the last couple of years. I don't think we've really gotten much of anything in the last little while. And this year was supposed to just be kind of warm and mild, but so far we've gotten some pretty crazy weather so far. We had a hard freeze, and then the next week we had 60-degree weather. So there's a lot of who knows what the weather is going to bring this year. But with it being this snowy this early, I kind of wonder what the rest of the year is going to be like, because we have, I don't know, usually February, March is the time that if we get anything, that's the point at which we get it. My birthday is January 6th, and very rarely do we ever get snow. Very rarely do we get snow, if we get snow at all. If we get any snow at all, do we ever get it before my birthday? Gotta dry it. Okay. So I think tomorrow I'll be streaming. I think it's scheduled at like 2 o'clock. And I'm going to be doing resin, epoxy resin, because I got some adorable molds. I think that needs to come down further. I got some great molds, and I had all these projects planned for during Christmas, and you know how things go. Suddenly it was Christmas, and now suddenly it's after Christmas, and I didn't even realize it was Christmas until like 2 days before it was. So it's always a fun process. So I have a lot of little projects and things that I had going for during Christmas that I'm going to finish up in the next little bit. And then in January, I'm going to be switching over to Valentine's and spring crafts. And like I said, in early February, that's when the fun of steed starting begins, and I cannot wait already. It's like Christmas is great, holidays are great, birthdays coming up, you know, enjoy all of that. But I mean, really, all I can wait for is all I can think about is spring and the garden and getting things going again and starting my seeds. And I will be streaming a lot of that because there is huge amounts of process to planting seeds. And generally, let's see, last year I ended up with during the course of the season, when I did my like tentative count of how many plants, how many starts I had, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000. Because I love starting plants and I love starting seeds and I love the process of growing plants. And so I have always preferred as much as possible to start my own seeds from scratch, primarily because it's the cheapest way to go. It's definitely the cheapest way to go because you can get an entire bag of seeds for like, why is this dripping so much? Um, you can get a bag of seeds for, you know, $1, $2, whatever. And then it pays for itself with the first tomato or the first couple tomatoes or the first couple squash or whatever. It will pay for itself. So economy wise and hobby wise, gardening is just the way to go. It's just the way to go. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do much in the way of filming or like any streaming or anything outside because I have the loudest neighbors driving by all the time with huge trucks or little souped up sedans or whatever, and the engine noise is just insane. I have a hard time even filming anything getting decent quality inside during the day because I spend most of the time just talking around these huge grumbling engines. Luckily, it don't seem that bad today. I've been hearing it that much. Although I have like every door closed that I possibly can just to try to improve sound quality. But I won't know how my sound quality is until after we're all done here. I go back and check out the different streams just for the sound quality. Just to see what the sound is doing. Because I have a whole setup. Why are you dripping? Oh my god, this brush is insane. Like I haven't put water into it forever and it's just dripping everywhere. Okay, hopefully that'll get it. It's hard to get my nose even when my brush is leaking. Okay. So yeah, apparently all the people with the big gnarly trucks are taking the day off, which I appreciate greatly because I'm editing film in here and it's a matter of like great sound quality and then all of a sudden there's this in the background that's just like, why? I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I need to figure out this screen situation because I keep blocking everything, but this, let's see, does that work? Nope, you're not going to do it? Okay, let's try that. So, I'm just going to do a simpler version because I think this is long enough to be able to test to see if this all actually did the streaming that it was supposed to do and went where it was supposed to go, and viable test run for tomorrow. We'll see. At very least, we got to do the eyes. Very least, we got to do the eyes. Okay. Need to go back to the black. Ugh. Starting to get darker outside. I'm not sure if it's because the day is ending or because it's going to start snowing again soon. I guess we shall see. It is supposed to snow around 4 o'clock. But yeah, so the I think this is actually the first year that the weather report said snow and it actually snowed. It just doesn't happen that often around here. Usually if they say snow, it's like it might get a little dusty at some point, but usually it's more indicative of like chunky rain. And very rarely actually manifest, let alone like this, because we've had snow now for 3 days, I think, because it started snowing and then it snowed overnight and then it snowed overnight. So yeah, this is solid third day of this whole thing. And it's not heating up that much. So if we get more snow overnight tonight, then we're looking at it not going away for another couple of days. Whereas if it does get up to temperature today, then it might all be gone. But it doesn't matter because you can't really go outside and garden anyways, so might as well just let everything do its thing. Especially since I never really got around to cutting anything back, because up until 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I don't know, the last time I went outside to try to do winter pruning, everything was like there was new growth everywhere. And you don't want to trim back a tree or a branch or any perennial when there's new growth on it, because basically what you're looking at is during the season, all of the energy is put into growth, into the leaves, into expanding. And then as we get into the fall, perennial plants will pull all of that energy from the outside of the bush back into their root ball, so that they have stored energy to survive during the winter, and they also have time, then they also have that reserve to be able to bloom and get going in the spring. Well, if you cut down a plant while all of that energy is still out in the vines or branches or whatever, then you're not giving that plant that opportunity to pull everything back into its root. So you're not going to have as happy a plant in the spring, and it can even cause them to die off, because if they don't have that reserve, if we get too much hard frost, or we get too much whatever, not enough rain, or anything that can throw that balance off, they're not going to have that reserve of energy in that root ball and in their lower branches. And so they're just not going to be as successful in the spring. So it's been this really weird back and forth of going out there to try to cut stuff down for its own good, because you also don't want to leave it to continue to sprout like that, because then it's wasting all that energy that it's not going to be able to put back in. So for a lot of the stuff, I just have like let it go and let it sit, so that hopefully by spring it will have done what it needs to do. So yeah, my yard looks absolute trash right now, because nothing really is trimmed back, other than like the hops got cut back, because you harvest them and you take them down to about 5 feet. And then as soon as that 5-foot length gets looking shabby, because hops have sort of a 2-part process to pulling stuff back in. So you cut them back to the 5 feet, and it basically puts them into that trauma mode that's actually beneficial to you, because it'll be like, oh, that if I'm getting cut back, then I need to pull all this energy back in. And so then it has a successful root ball. But a lot of the stuff didn't do that. Like, luckily the hops did, because, like having hops, and they're great, both decorative plant, and the harvesting of the hops is of course a great thing as well. But if you're looking at everything else in the yard, most of it hasn't been cut down. I'll probably, get to it now that we've had multiple days of ice and snow. All of those perennial plants have definitely been, gut punched enough that they're going to be moving back into their stasis mode, their dormant phase. And so what I want to do now is go and cut off all of the new growth, because the plant's still going to try to keep that stuff alive, and you want it to just give up and focus on storing everything for the winter. So that's been the biggest problem with going back and forth between really hot weather and really cold weather repeatedly during the spring, or during the spring, summer, and fall. Like, we've been going back and forth and all this stuff so much that I don't think anything bloomed on time. I don't think anything grew at the correct times. I don't think anything was actually on schedule, like, at all this year. I don't think there was a single thing that did what it was supposed to do. And it was just because the weather was not what was expected. It was not what was supposed to be happening during the time period, because we went straight from winter to summer, and then back to spring, and then we went to fall, but then spring, and then summer again. And it continues to just kind of go all over the place at this point. And getting snow this early in the year is definitely a huge aberration from what is expected at this time period in this area. Usually it's just rainy and cold at this point. We're not looking at snow really even into the new year. We're just generally not looking at weather like this. So it's been fun. It's been interesting to watch. It has been quite a process of just trying to watch the plants in my garden and see what they're needing and sort of where they are in their process, because I couldn't gauge anything by zone or by month or by any other external timelines, because even two plants standing next to each other would be on completely different timelines as to where they were in their growth cycle. Like one of them would think it was spring and the other one thought it was winter. It's like, ah. But got a good harvest this year. Tomatoes had an especially good year. Um, all my squash ended up kind of small, and I think that was because I basically stopped watering when uh, the uh, water shortages in town became an issue. We went from, no problem at all to you could water like every other day and this and that and the other. And I just decided to stop watering altogether. I think I watered once or twice after the um, restrictions went out, and then I just didn't bother at all. So for next year, I need to have some sort of a passive watering system in that area, because everything else did just fine after I stopped watering, because everything else was set up in such a way that it was near to an area that would either get runoff, or it was in an area that had really good water retention, that sort of thing. But in the area that I had squashed this year, they were just not happy and not pleased. They were going great until I stopped watering, and then at that point it was just sort of like, okay, well, I got a Hubbard that was about this big. So that is just what it is at this point. That is just what it is. Let's see. Let me make the reference picture one more time. Mhm. Definitely have to work on these angles. You're like right there. That'd be good, but not going to worry about it right now because it's not going to happen right now. I look like a deranged duck. Well, at least it's in the bird family. Quack, quack, quack. Yeah, I definitely need to work on the angle of my mirror because it's hard to gauge thing when I'm going from like this weird angle to like check it out because all right. I think that's probably enough for a test. Especially since everything seems to be going into a weird direction right now. Quack. All right, we're just going to pretty much call this good because I just wanted to do a quick test today, and now I have enough that shows that it actually did something, that this thing actually did something for me. Now I have to see if it actually shows up anywhere. All right, we're going to call that good. About an hour and a half. Might try to do a stream just on Twitch later to see if it'll actually work this time. Because although, seriously, just on initial usage and initial review of this program, let's see. everything worked beautifully. Oh. So yeah, the stream restream restream.io is the program that I was using, format, website, app, whatever you call it, that I've been using to do a simulcast on all of the different platforms that are in theory running this live. So we'll see how Christmassy we can make this since it's after Christmas. um, so yeah, definite recommend on the Restream with the asterisk addendum of let me be sure that it actually did anything on any other channel. Although it shows that people have been watching, so in theory, this is doing a thing somewhere, and we will see how it works out in the long run. Okay. All right, I think I have pushed all the buttons and tested all the things for this and believe that we can just call it good for now. And I'm going to go and check and see if this is showing up anyone else. So yeah, thank you to everybody who has watched this, is watching this, will watch this in the future. Come and find me on socials at Crafty Kikipocalypse or Kikipocalypse. That'll get you to pretty much everywhere that I'm at. I will be back tomorrow at the latest on here or on Twitch or something. And we'll see how this all goes in the future. All right. Thanks. Have an awesome day, and I will catch you on the flip side.